Hi, this is Jennifer with the Good Earth Garden Center introducing Andy from Ladybug Natural Gardening Products, who was with us this past Saturday, Earth Day weekend, 2012, and she came to talk to some of our customers about square foot gardening. It was very informative, and she really knows her stuff. We hope you enjoy.
And we want gardeners, we believe our mission statement is that if we teach you how to garden, meaning improving the soil, and we teach you good organic and natural gardening techniques, you will be lifelong gardeners because you'll have success and you'll go back to your local garden center and you'll ask for the products and you'll know what you're doing, and you yourself will pay it forward and pass it on to someone else, and your kids will learn how to garden and y'all will be successful, and the world will continue to roll. Anyway, so right now the biggest rage in our industry for the garden center industry is all about vegetable gardening. People are getting back into the gardens. They haven't seen this in the industry since World War II when people started planting victory gardens. Even this week on the Today Show, they said that the White House has not had a vegetable garden since Eleanor Roosevelt was since she was in the White House. They have not had a vegetable garden until now with this administration that's in right now. So that speaks volumes that people are really trying to get back out there. And you can actually save yourself some money by growing some of your own produce, if you will. It all starts with the soil. And so what we're going to talk about, if y'all want, if you can give me a little bit, I'll get you some handouts together too. What I've given y'all is basic gardening techniques for the vegetable garden. The biggest, the most popular thing right now is square foot gardening, which is all back in the rage. I didn't forget the book. This book was printed the first time out in print back in the 1970s. It's in its second livelihood. The first one involved you had to actually disturb the soil down here, the bottom layer. You would actually take the grass off or the gravel, and you would till the dirt and you would disturb it. So if you go to the Half Price bookstore and buy a first edition, that will be what the big difference is in the two books. This book, he states in here that you do not have to disturb the soil with the exception of grass, okay? So what we're saying is if you've got a lawn, you cannot just go plop a box out on top of it and build a vegetable garden. You've got to take that grass out, because what will happen is the grass will begin to decay and it will go anaerobic and it will become a big slime factory, okay? And you don't want that. So if you've got lawn, make sure that you pull it out and kill it off. So the first step of vegetable gardening is, let's back up a little bit, and again, I'm ADHD, so give me a minute. The first rule of thumb is location, okay? You've got to find a sunny place. Even today, talking to gardeners, we were discussing, can I grow a vegetable garden in shade? No, you cannot. It has to be full sun. Vegetables thrive in sun. They need at least 6 to 8 hours of sun. The next thing after location that you're going to talk about, you're going to think about what am I going to build my garden out? Am I going to till into the native soil, or am I going to go up? Or am I going to do container planting? This book right here teaches you how to garden in a 4x4 box that's 6 inches deep. It took me a lot to get that under my belt, because at home we have about 2,000 square feet of vegetable garden, and everything for the most part is in native soil. So I was like very much of, there is no way you can grow a vegetable in 6 inches of soil. It's not possible. We put the product that's in the book, there's a recipe, which we'll go through that in a minute, and the author asked us to put this product in a bag, which is this right here. So in order to do that, after we put it in a bag, my boss came back to me and said, Andy, you have to fall in love with the product and go teach people how to do this. And I was like, I don't believe in it. So that was the first step for me, was building a 4x4 box with 6 inches. And what we did was we took a very heavy grade landscape fabric, because I was determined to make it fail. I'm very mean that way. And we laid it down, and then we built the box on top of it. And guess what? The darn thing did fabulous. So then I went to Fort Worth, Texas, and if y'all know where Fort Worth is, it's over near Dallas. It's very hot there, very, very hot. And we built a bed at Marshall Grain on asphalt in 6 inches at a slope. The thing did fabulous. We planted that box in 2009. In spring of 2010, we went back. They had cabbage in that box. They had broccoli. They had kale. It looked fantastic. So, I have a science background in college, and I just could not wrap that. I couldn't figure this out. Why did this work? Because normally when you work in a heavy, native soil and you pull that tomato out, those tomatoes' roots tap way down, right? So what happens in the square foot box is your roots actually tap out, is what ends up happening, instead of down. So what happens in a small space like this, your root system commingles together a lot. They affect each other, right? You follow me so far? So it's very important, number one, that the soil be a very loose soil. And number two, that you plant plants that are companion plant that like to be around one another, okay? Follow me? Then there's in the handouts a list of companion planting plants too. Plants that like to be planted side by side next to each other. All right. As far as building the box, you can do anything from doing, these are cedar boards. Pick these up at Home Depot. And for some of y'all that may not know it, Home Depot will cut boards for you for free. If you don't have a saw to cut with, you can go to Home Depot, pull your boards, and ask them to cut. We use non-treated boards because we don't want chemicals to leach into our vegetable garden. We do not recommend railroad ties. And if for some reason you inherited a bunch of railroad ties and you have to use them, what we want you to do is take a heavy-duty plastic, at least a 4 mil, and wrap those railroad ties, okay? We don't want that creosote leaching into your garden. You can use cinder blocks. I have a girlfriend that does cinder blocks, and in the middle of the block she plants other flowers, so she makes it very pretty. You can do that as well. I've even used at some of the test beds that we've built across from here to North Carolina, we've done just the simple cedar pickets, the little ones that cost you like $2 a board. We've done those, and they'll hold up. They may not last you for a long time, but they will hold up for a season or two. This is a really neat system here. I like this. This is metal, and you can just simply take the board and slide it in. You don't have to screw anything together if you do it this way. You can also build your beds raised. My father-in-law, who's been ill, his beds are a little bit taller to where he can sit on the side of the bed and squat, and to where he's not all the way down having to bend over. So you can do that too. It's whatever method is to your madness, okay, is what we like to say. The soil blend that's in here from the book is a third compost, a third coarse vermiculite, and a third peat moss. And on the compost, what Mel writes is that he wants you to use 3 different types of compost, okay? So you might go get a chicken manure, you might get a beef cattle manure, you might get a sheep manure, you might get a rabbit manure, and you mix those all together. Okay. And if y'all have never mixed your own soil, to play with peat moss, vermiculite, and compost on a windy day is not fun, okay? So it's part of the reason Mel came to us and said, put this blend in a bag so people can just cut it open and dump it out into their box. Now, we did things a little bit differently. We did a blend of 6 compost. This is the backbone of our business. And when you buy compost, I'm going to get on my soap opera box about compost. When you buy compost, compost should smell good, okay? You should be able to put your hand in it and play in it and put your hands up to your face and it not knock your head back. It should smell good to your hands. You should be able to do this and not have any fragrance left on your hands. You can do a simple jar test. You can take a spaghetti jar, let's say in your house, or a canning jar. Put in about a third of a cup of compost into the jar. Fill it up with water. Put the lid on tight. Shake it up real good and sit it on the countertop. It will layer out what you are actually buying. It will show you if you're buying a lot of filler or if you're buying a lot of organic matter. Organic matter will always float up to the top. And you want organic matter in the soil because it's the organic matter that holds the water moisture. That is the reason this soil blend works, is because you've got peat, you've got compost, and you've got vermiculite. They all hold moisture. The other thing that they do is they allow roots to grow, and roots need airflow. So the roots are not compacted. They have plenty of space to move around together in there. That is the other beauty of the mix. And if you look at it, this is our square foot. Look how pretty that is. It's just gorgeous. And I play in a lot of dirt, so dirt is pretty to me, or gorgeous.
Does it tell in that book then what the amount that you mix?
Yes, ma'am. It'll be a third, a third, and third. Like if you were going to mix it yourself, you would come here to Good Earth and you'd get one of those big bags of vermiculite that's about that tall, and then you'd get yourself 3 different types of compost, and you'd get you a 3.8 bale of peat moss, and it kind of goes through that. We use coconut fiber instead of peat moss, mainly because peat moss has to be shipped in from Canada. The coconut fiber we use comes in from Mexico. It's right there at our back door, so it's cheaper for us to bring it in that way. Sometimes we will use peat, though, if our truck from Mexico has not crossed the border, which happened this week. So it just came in last night, so it's a good thing. All right, so what you're going to do basically is take your mix, you're going to pour it into the box. The next thing you're going to do, which I can't show you here, but we're going to build a grid. Poor little book's been on a sideshow trail for a while. You're going to take your box and you're going to divide it up into squares, and you're going to end up with 4 rows and then 4 this way. Okay, so you're going to have a total of 12 4-inch squares in your box. The reason that you need the book is because at the back of the book it's going to tell you, see, this is what it's going to look like right there, right in here, like this. Why you need the book is because at the very back it's going to tell you how many vegetables you can place in a square. Okay, one of the girls I work with, she's a new gardener and she's learning, and one of the best ways to learn to grow a vegetable garden is to get out there and do it. So my sweetie pie came into work after she planted the tomatoes and I'd been out on the road. She filled the whole box up with tomatoes. Okay, I said, Amber, baby, those tomatoes are going to get to be about this big, sweetheart, and you're not going to be able to get in there to harvest them. And she was like, I didn't think about that. It's like, I know, so let's go get the book and let's learn together, you know. So it's real important. Or like, think about a yellow crookneck squash plant, get about that big. So you're actually going to have to use up 4 squares for that squash to grow out. Vegetables that grow up, you're going to trail up. And winter squash, cucumbers, pumpkins, watermelon, cantaloupe can all be sent up. You can do things like take cattle panel or hog panel, whatever y'all call it. I bet y'all don't use the word hog, do y'all, because of the Razorbacks? It's probably a bad word, isn't it, to use the word hog? But what you're going to do is just train the plants to go up. You can actually make a tomato plant do that too, just by pruning him and making him vine up through the lattice work. You'll want to take the plant, like on a, let's say a spaghetti squash. As soon as, and it's called winter squash, but we don't plant it in the winter. Isn't that mean of the ag office to do that, or whoever said that? It's actually planted about from April through the first part of June, and then you'll harvest. The reason they call it winter squash is because you're going to harvest it in the fall. It just takes longer to grow than zucchini or yellow crookneck do. When the plant starts to form the fruit, or like on a watermelon or a cantaloupe, and you've got that little baby coming out, you're going to take a pair of pantyhose. See, didn't know what to do with all those Rand pantyhose, did you? You're going to make a little hammock and tie up underneath there and hold that baby and just kind of cradle him. And what will happen is that watermelon, cantaloupe, spaghetti squash start to grow, you'll just kind of stretch that pantyhose out a little bit more around that plant. You can use, they have them here. They have stakes here, bamboo stakes, or there's a stake that they have that's got a wire. It's a wire stake that's got a coating on it, and you can take 4 of them and build a teepee. I didn't bring my camera, I'm sorry, I was trying to think. I have a picture of my vegetable garden, but I did snow peas up a teepee and just ran them. They go around and around and around, and you can harvest. And then right underneath that, I planted lettuce. So we were harvesting lettuce, but had snow peas going up at the same time. Do y'all have a dry erase marker? Perfect. Thank you so much. So you can take this, these are very multi-purpose. They can be used for a lot. You can take them like this and do this, right? So you'll have that like in the middle of the box. And what you'll do is you'll plant your seeds in a circle all the way around. The peas will start growing up this way. You can take a tomato cage and invert it, turn it upside down, and have your vines grow up the tomato cage too. It's another way to do that. So what you may have is you may have a bed like this. And when you lay out your garden, you're going to want to lay out, I also encourage you, which I know I'm jumping around right now, to keep a diary. Get a spiral notebook and write down what you planted where in each square. Draw your little grid out and put, I did beans here, or I did my tomato over here. Draw out what you plant, because you're still going to want to practice crop rotation. And what crop rotation may mean is that you've got tomatoes planted here, right there. You've got it planted there. So next time you're going to plant that tomato over here. We don't want to plant plants in the same place because we want to keep the bugs on their toes. If you plant, like for instance, if you plant squash in the same place every single time, you're just setting yourself up for squash vine borers, because the borers are going to know where to go get the squash. So are the squash bugs too. So crop rotation, very important. But like for instance, you can do tomatoes right here. You could do carrot seeds right here. Carrots and tomatoes grow together. They like one another a whole lot. And what will happen is the tomato plant will begin to shade that carrot, and when the temperature outside starts to heat up, it will keep this carrot cooler and keep that carrot continue to grow underneath. Now, on a variety of a carrot that you would plant, you would use like the little thumb carrots. You wouldn't do your Danvers, which are much longer than 6 inches. You would do one of your shorter, stockier carrots in here. Now, if you are going to lay out your garden, you will want to think about where you're going to put your taller things. Okay, layout's very important because you don't want to shade plants. So look at your sun. Know when your sun comes up and over and how you want to lay out. For instance, if this is the east and this is the west, let's say, I will most likely plant my corn all right here because my corn's going to grow tall. And I'm going to put my shorter growing things, like maybe my squash, down over here, and my zucchini over here. You follow me? Because they're lower growing. And I might come back over here and I might put me some bush beans right over in here and some bush beans over here. Make sense so far? And back in this corner, I'm going to put my tomato. And over here, I'm going to put my basil, because I like basil and tomatoes together over there too. And I might do my little carrots like there, like we talked about. So you've got to really think about what you're doing. You'll take that book and you'll sit down and kind of read. The other thing that you're going to want to do here is you're going to want to get a planting guide. And yesterday, which is out in the car, I went over to y'all's extension office, and they have a great 4-page handout about planting dates and when to plant the vegetables, and they have it on a nice little grid. You can also go to the Good Earth website, and they have what to plant each month. It tells you what to start getting started. Now,
per zone?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Well, no. Good Earth is for this area. Since you're from another state, do not go to your box store, okay? I don't hate Home Depot or Lowe's or anything, but they will sell you vegetables that should not be planted in the wrong time, and you don't want that. You want success. So go to your independently owned garden center. They're going to have the best information for you, and they're going to be able to educate you and hold your hand through this, okay? You're not going to get that service there that you would here or at your garden center. Don't be afraid to combine your herbs in your vegetable garden. They go hand in hand together. Herbs that I would not put in my square foot box would be rosemary, because rosemary gets big. I would never put mint in my vegetable garden. It's a weed. I don't care what they say. Another one that I have fallen out of love with is lemon balm. I love lemon balm, but lemon balm will come up and spread too, so that might be another one I might not put in the vegetable garden too. But you could do your oregano, you could do your basils, you could do your thymes, and on your oregano and your thyme, you're going to want to put them in squares that they can just stay, because they're going to be more of a perennial plant. Whereas your basil, you're going to switch out and do cilantro in the wintertime. Is that true for y'all too? Is cilantro's a cool season and cool season, right? And then y'all switch it for basil.
Right, it'll seed out.
It'll bolt.
Get hot, you put a basil in.
Okay, good. All right. I just want to make sure it was the same as what we do too. I figured it was, but I wasn't sure. So you're gonna do the same thing. Now, I noticed too yesterday at the AgriLife, on their handout that they have, it talks about growing a winter garden for y'all, which I think you should still try to do. You should still do your lettuce and your bok choy and your pak choy and your radicchio and all of your winter vegetables in the wintertime. And you can do that and be successful. This is an incredible product, this Thinsulate. Not 2010, the winter of 2010, no wait, it's 2011. I have to think about where Ladybug was living at that point on her production we were building. The winter of 2011 in Austin, Texas, we hit 17 degrees. We don't ever hit 17 degrees. That's like Alaska for us, you know. And we hit 17, I think it was for like 3 days. And at our garden center, we grow a very large vegetable garden, and at home I do as well. But this is what we use to cover those gardens. We did about 4 layers of it over them, and it protected them. We didn't have any loss whatsoever. This product right here is what we call, you could call it a frost cloth. What you'll do, and for instance, let's say that you planted your garden last weekend and it hasn't really gotten adjusted, and tonight it's going to be a little cool, right? You could buy this product. In your square foot box, what you're going to do is take a piece of 1/2-inch PVC pipe, little bitty round one about the size of a quarter, 10 foot long, and you're going to take it from one corner, just put it down inside the soil, and you're going to hoop it over to the other corner. You're going to take another piece and go from one corner to the other. If you want to get fancy, you can go to your hardware store and get a C-clamp and screw it into the side of the box and hoop it in through that. You're going to take your Thinsulate and you're going to throw it up over there, and you're going to protect it that way. Another way that you can do, especially with y'all are going to be a little cooler this week, and let's say you've got some new tender vegetables out. A great use for these bottles right here, especially in the 2-liter size, is to take these, fill them up with water, put the cap on, put them out around your vegetables, which I know you'll look like hobo, hippie, whatever you want to call me, out in the garden, but hey, it works. What happens is during the day, the sunlight heats this water up and makes it nice and warm, and at night it becomes a thermos and it radiates that heat out around the plant. So it's going to keep the plant warmer at night by a few degrees. Let's say that you've been out of town on a road trip and you come back in and it's going to freeze that night and you're really not prepared. You can get buckets of hot water and set the buckets of hot water out, throw your Thinsulate cloth up over, and you will make a little tent in there and keep it warmer inside with those plants. So it's a way to kind of get the garden through the winter time when you're kind of, if you're a tomato fiend like we are and we plant our tomatoes probably way earlier than we should and we chance it, you roll the dice, then there's little steps that you can take to do that. For the winter garden here, what you might even consider, if you've got that PVC pipe, you can take the little white twinkle Christmas tree lights, the little bitty ones, and wrap those onto the PVC pipe. Throw this up over there. You turn those lights on at night and it keeps it warm up inside of there. This works much better than plastic. It will not burn the plants if it comes in contact with the leaf. It can be taken off, it can get wet, it can air dry, and we keep ours in a 55-gallon trash can out in the garden. And it's always out there. I take the lid off, get what I need out, and throw it out. The other neat thing about this product, if y'all have grasshoppers this year, which I think in Texas we're going to have we had drought last year, we're going to have pestilence this year, because the grasshoppers are all this big right now. You can take this product, or if you've got squash vine borers, You can put this out, up, and over your squash. The only problem with that is you're going to have to become the pollinator, since the bees won't be able to get into the squash, but you will protect your plants from the borer. It will also protect them from grasshoppers. The product allows sunlight to come in, and it also allows heavy rain. Like if you had a rainfall event come in, like yesterday, it would penetrate through there, but it allows airflow. So it's not like a sheet, like putting a bed sheet out over a plant. Good for all plants. If y'all have got something tender that you've planted here and you want to just pull it through the winter, you can use that they've got it here for you. Now, two other things I want to make a point about in the book, in the Square Foot Garden book. He talks about not needing to fertilize, and our owner and our business and just about every extension agent I've met from here to North Carolina has said that they disagree completely. Mel Gardens in New York, that's where the first book was written. The second book was written in Utah, and you might be able to get away with it, just from what state you're in. In our state, in the South, we get too hot and we have way too much humidity. And heat and humidity break down nutrients in the soil, so you've got to fertilize. There is not, and plus our garden season is year round, whereas up north, theirs is 3 to 4 months out of the year, and that's it. So you might be able to get away with it. But here you cannot. You've got to fertilize. The other point he makes in his book is he wants you to hand water. We're very against that, mainly because we see customers come in with what we call blossom end rot, especially customers growing tomato plants in containers. This is blossom end rot on the bottom of a tomato plant. It looks kind of yucky. This is caused by watering. And what happens is we water too much, so we leach out the calcium in the soil, so that shows it in a deficiency. So it's a watering thing. The other things you can set yourself up for by watering is getting too much water up on the leaves. So we really try to get you to either do drip irrigation or soaker hoses. When you first get seeds up, they've got a phenomenal watering can back here in the back, which I loved. It's got a flowerette that you can dial the control on the watering can. I've never seen that before. I was like, ooh, exciting. So when you've got seeds out, you'll hand water those. The seeds come up, they've got their second to third true leaves on them. Then what you're going to do is come back and run your soaker hose or your drip. And that's much better. You'll get a deeper watering that way, and you won't have the tendency to overwater. Okay? When I plant, and I have to do this too, I love this stuff. This is worm castings. This is worm poo at its best. Look at that, isn't that just gorgeous? That is just the prettiest stuff.